So Vanessa, Micro YYC, we're ecstatic to have you part of our conversation today, and to hear a little bit about your story. What got you to where you are today? Um, what, what's been the journey for you? Because I know you've had a couple versions of farming until you landed on Micro YYC. So could you tell us a little bit about that story?
I don't have a traditional like farming background at all. I've grown up in cities. I went to school for business. I was very much just like a city gal who liked to garden. And I also like to eat. But how do I even get started? Basically, my love of gardening led me to the food community in Calgary and the gardening community in Calgary. And through that, I met like-minded people. And then my farming journey started when I spent a season farming with another urban farm. And actually we were kind of peri-urban because we had a market garden just outside of the city. And that was C Plus Soil, who I believe are still members. And we spent a summer doing that, and it was totally crazy, and we really didn't know what we were doing. But it gave me kind of a taste of growing food on a small scale to sell to people in Calgary. And so that was kind of where it started. And then when that season came to an end, it was getting into fall, going into winter, and I was like, well, I don't want to go back to a normal job at this point. I've had a taste of the farm life, and I had no interest in going back to a desk. So it was winter, as I mentioned, and I was like, what can I do in the winter? And microgreens seemed like a good place to start, especially doing something by myself. So I thought, oh, I'll just do microgreens in my basement for the winter, and then in the spring I'll get back outside and maybe do some spin farming and farm in people's yards, that sort of thing. I started, it was November, and I started growing microgreens for the Calgary Farmers Market. And once spring rolled around, I was really busy growing microgreens, and I did not have time to go look for plots or tear up a lawn or get anything going outside. It just kept me busy enough that I stayed fully in the microgreen scene. So I spent a couple of years farming out of my basement with shelves and lights and providing to small grocers and markets. And then, as you know, shared space with the YYC Growers in the warehouse there. And I outgrew that space in 6 months and got my own warehouse bay after that. So it's an urban space. It's in the city. It's just a kind of a regular old warehouse bay. And just this April, so that was in December 2017. And just this April, we took over the bay next door. So now we have 2 bays, and we are farming out of 3,000 square feet. And when I say we, I mean, I have 1 full-time operations manager and 6 part-time staff who are currently operating the business while I am sort of on maternity leave. So I do still go in once a week, keep an eye on things. But I've got a great team right now. So yeah, that's kind of the journey, just like alone in my basement, listening to hours and hours of podcasts by myself to now having this great team that allows me to have a bit of space so that I can focus right now on my 8-month-old twins.
So tell us a little bit about microgreens. I mean, that's the second question is typically what do you grow? And but I want you to, more than microgreens, tell us what, a little bit, what's the deal with microgreens? And also what are some of your favorite products that you do grow?
For sure. So I mean, it's a pretty easy answer. I grow microgreens. I grow lots of different kinds of microgreens. I'll start by clarifying the difference between sprouts and microgreens, because that's often a point of confusion. I am also guilty of calling them sprouts because they are tiny little sprouted plants. So, but sprouts are typically grown in water, and they still include the root and the seed when they're harvested. So think like alfalfa sprouts, broccoli sprouts. They're kind of usually kind of in like a, almost like a mat or like all tangled together. And those are similar to microgreens, but microgreens are typically grown either in soil, which is what I do, or on like a growing medium of some sort, like a mat or in a hydroponic system. And they are cut at above the root. The stems are cut and they're harvested that way and then packaged. So they're 10-day-old sprouts of bigger vegetables that we're familiar with, but just grown a little bit differently than like what you see in the grocery store that are called sprouts. So that's kind of what are microgreens. The microgreens that we grow include, we do sunflower shoots, pea shoots. We have a classic mix, which is a mild blend of micros, and then a spicy mix. And then we also do standalone varieties like arugula, broccoli, purple radish, and red cabbage. And we've also started doing a few micro herbs. So micro cilantro is the one that is most commonly found. And we've just started playing around with micro basil, but it's pretty finicky for storing in the fridge. So we were actually doing it as a living product. So it grows like in a flat, like little basils this high. And it looks, I didn't mention we grow wheatgrass. So that's a living product as well. So it looks kind of like our wheatgrass tray, except for it's basil instead of wheatgrass. So that's kind of an exciting one that's new for us. I mean, it's hard to choose. I love them all, but the sunflower shoots are probably the ones that get used the most around my house because we like to put them in smoothies, and they're really versatile and have really nice flavor. So yeah, everyone has their own favorites, but I guess I could also say it takes 10 days to grow most of our crops. The herbs take a little longer, but from planting to germinating to under the lights to harvest is 10-day turnaround. So it's pretty quick. So we are just always planting, always harvesting, always working.
And therefore you need 6 part-time staff to kind of keep it churning.
Yes. It takes many hands.
Yes, exactly. I did do a stint of microgreens back in the early days of spin farming. They recommended that would be a way of generating income in the off season.
Yes.
And so I do know a bit of the painstaking sunflower seed shells on the sunflower. And I think you've got some secrets around that, but you don't need to share those here.
I don't know if we have secrets. My staff have secret grudges against harvesting sunflower shoots.
That's right.
Yeah, the seeds do stick to the shoots, and you'll often find, we don't try and get them all out of the package because then we would all go crazy, but you'll often find little sunflower shells in your sunflower shoots. We do a pretty thorough sort once they've been cut for any remaining ones that haven't popped off in the growing process, but it is a manual removal of shells from that product. So the other ones you can kind of cut and package as they are, but not sunflowers.
Yes, they are a labor of love, and I think that's important to know when people get that little clamshell of sunflower shoots. There's been a lot of time and attention that's gone into that, which, in our day and age of disconnected agriculture, that's actually, there's a gift there that you provide for us, a relational gift, a reconnection to plant material, which I think, it's good for us to know and value. I do want to open it up to maybe some questions, but I have one. And so I kind of came across a bunch of data research around the fact that microgreens have just as much of their nutritional content in these in these greens that have just burst out of their shells, and then like ORAC ratings and, you know, really healthy. Do you want to say something about kind of the health food side of microgreens?
Yes, sure. I will preface that by saying I'm not a nutritionist, but I am aware of some of the claims out there and the research out there. The research on microgreen, like individual types of microgreens, is pretty new. But yes, there is some research out there that really shows that broccoli I think that's the one that's been studied the most, broccoli microgreens and broccoli sprouts, which are similar in nutritional profile, have like an insane amount, like per volume of the nutrients and the vitamins and all the good stuff that the larger version has. It's just like in a concentrated form, because all the energy from the seed is in this tiny sprout, and not kind of spread out over the whole plant. So and I know there's some other properties of broccoli sprouts that have been studied, and I'm trying to remember the name of the sulforaphane or something. I can't remember the name of it. I've listened to podcasts on it. It's fascinating, but I'm not an expert on that research, so I don't want to say anything that isn't right. But yeah, they're super jam-packed with nutrients. They've got chlorophyll in them, which is really good for you. Wheatgrass in particular is one that's been around in kind of health food circles for a while. And typically people will cut wheatgrass, juice it, and do like a wheatgrass shot for the health benefits. So because people certainly don't eat wheatgrass because it tastes good. A lot of people ask me, what does it taste like? Is it good? And I'm like, well, it tastes like grass. It is grass. So, but it's kind of meant to be done as a shot, and purely for the health benefits. So yeah, I know that was a bit vague, but I don't like to say more than I am an expert at. So
yeah, fair enough. I'll make the crazy claims about it being, you know, great for, you know, well, I mean, I've just seen some of the anecdotal stuff about cancer and reversing or holding that in place. And yeah, so I mean, again, I just think plants, they are living, we're part of this whole the ecosystem together. And of course they're going to benefit us, of course. So
yeah, I like to say, like, it's kind of intuitive when you're eating greens, like especially like fresh, young, like just harvested greens, like you know that feels good to eat, and so intuitively we know that that's good for us.
Right on. I like that. I'm going to open it if anyone's got a couple questions. And Bree, I did see your question about spin farming.
Oh, I can answer.
Yeah, you can answer too.
You go ahead, Rod. You do more spin farming than me.
Yeah, well, you know, they call me the Rod father of spin farming, anyhow, for Calgary. But yeah, spin farming, Bree, is where you, it stands for small plot intensive farming. So SP and then IN go together. And there is a website, which I put in the chat box. And basically what it is people in the city, they go around looking for yards. So you heard Vanessa mentioning that she didn't have time to go look for yards in the spring because she was busy with the microgreens. And so that's how spin farmers or urban farmers collect their land. They use land that's typically donated to the cause, and then they turn them into vegetable gardens.
We're in Southwest Calgary, just pretty central, kind of near Southland Drive and McLeod Trail. There's a little service road back there, Horton Road, and yeah, we're just tucked in over there. One thing I will share about our containers is that they are compostable. So they're not actually like a normal plastic. They're a plastic made from corn. The problem with the compostable plastics in Calgary is that the city green carts do not accept them, which I did not know when I started this business in 2015. And I chose a compostable product from the get-go because I wasn't comfortable using plastic. And I knew that the city was rolling out a composting program in 2017. And so I just thought, I'll just wait. And when the bins come out, I'll be able to tell everyone that my containers are compostable. And then I found out that the city composting system is not high enough heat to break those down. So they do need to be composted in like an industrial facility. So one thing that we've done to try to help with that is that the YYC Growers does take back those containers. And then I take them from YYC Growers and put them in my green bins at work, and they go to Blue Planet Recycling where they can handle that material. So it's not perfect. It'd be great if you could just put it in your own bin, but and I hope that the city will catch up with adding some technology or working with a partner in the future. But yeah, that's kind of what we've come up with for now, is just peel the label off, bring it back like you do the egg cartons, or yeah, I think that's the only other return that we do. For the cut and package, that's kind of, in order to maintain freshness, they do need to be sealed in a container. So that's kind of the best product I can find on the market. And we've come up with a solution that I think solves the end of life of that product for YYC Growers customers anyways. Some of my grocery stores do that as well, but of course all of that has now been paused because of COVID, which is not ideal. But YYC Growers has systems for handling things in a way that we feel is safe. If there is interest for living products, I would be open to trying that out. There's a little more logistics involved with delivering hundreds of living trays versus stackable clamshells, but it's not impossible. And if there was a demand, I don't know how to find out if more people would want them, but we could try it, or we could add a variety or two to the web store so that you could add it to your order. And it wouldn't have to be, for like 800 shares or whatever, 700 or whatever we're at now, all at once. It's certainly something I'm open to. I've wondered the same thing myself, because I do buy a lot of seeds, like they come on pallets, big bags of seed. And I think that's just the beauty of nature's bounty, is that plants produce way more seed than they would ever need in order to propagate themselves. Like one sunflower head, it's like hundreds, if not thousands of seeds. And so you could keep, I don't know the percentages, but like 5% of your crop to replant a field of sunflowers. And then there's all that other seed that is a surplus. And most plants are this way with their seeds. Like when kale goes to seed, or broccoli, there's just seeds upon seeds upon seeds. And so luckily nature provides a surplus of seed, and that's how it's reasonable to grow it only for 10 days in a tiny tray and harvest it. So that's definitely something I wondered about in the early days.
We love closing off. I've really loved this conversation, and I want to say one thing, that the plastic free task force that is a bunch of volunteers of YYC Growers eaters that are passionate about kind of eliminating plastic from their lives and helping us become plastic free is up and running again. So I will definitely be posting this link to that group. And Vanessa, I know you explore this topic, and we're, as you mentioned, kind of front running in terms of compostables, and like nothing is quite perfect. And maybe there is a beautiful solution still to be developed by Lyndon and Violet potentially.
I would love to see containers made out of hemp. This is my thing that I'm keeping my eyes peeled for, because they could be more local, they could be more sustainable as a crop. Anyways, that's my I'm waiting for the hemp.
All right. I think we'll put some energy behind that, because there's a hemp company just out in Cochrane that makes some beautiful coffee substitute type stuff. Anyways, last question, Vanessa. And this is, what is the most satisfying thing for you about farming?
It's a good question. I think feeding people is very satisfying. It feels really good to be growing something that is local, nutritious, available year-round in my case, that I can bring to the plates of Calgarians. I really appreciate good food, and I appreciate all the different types of local farms in my diet. And so to be able to play a small role in providing some of that produce to people to eat is very satisfying for me. Like I really wanted to work in an area that was meaningful. That was always my goal, even when I was getting my business degree. And I feel like this checks that box for me. And it means I get to be part of this very awesome community of rural and urban farmers, and just like the general food community in Calgary. And it feels good to be part of that. So yeah, I think that's
so good to hear. And we love having you as an anchor member of YYC Growers. And the variety of products and the fresh greens that we get to consume, like you say, all winter long, keeps us all happy and healthy. So thank you so much for your time and for taking time out. Being a busy mom, I actually wanted to ask about Lyndon and Violet. We didn't even get there.
Oh yeah, well, they're still sleeping.
Yeah.
So this is amazing. I'm thrilled. This was a risky choice, but
yeah. So thank you so much for taking time out and sharing with us.
Thanks for having me.